To focus now to the current situation in Himachal Pradesh, which still continues to remain grim due to the incessant rainfall that's taken place over the last few days. Now, a day after 13 people were reported dead after a temple collapsed in Shimla, 8 houses have collapsed in a fresh incident of landslide that has been reported in capital of Himachal Pradesh. 2 persons have died. Evacuation operations are still underway as more people are being evacuated. So far in Shimla, 20 people have been reported dead due to the rain-related mishaps. A short while back, a report sent by my colleague Amandeep essentially indicated that the evacuation process is still underway. Fresh landslides have also been reported. But as far as the weather condition is concerned, it does appear that the situation is under control. Perhaps with the weather now clearing up, the evacuation that is being carried out perhaps has also now gained momentum. Let me quickly go across to my colleague Amandeep, who's getting us the latest details. In fact, Amandeep has also spoken to one survivor. Well, that's the silver lining, we may say so. The survivor who spoke to Amandeep a short while back. We'll try and play out that interview with the survivor in a short while from now. But before that, Amandeep, just walk us through the details that you're picking up in terms of the evacuation process, which is basically underway. The Indian Air Force has also been carrying out the rescue operation along with the Indian Army. What's the current situation like, especially in closer to the Shiva temple, which perhaps was largely seen as the epicenter?
Well, absolutely, Shavan. If we talk about entire Himachal Pradesh, evacuation is being carried out by Indian Air Force and Indian Army, NDRF and local police as well. But the major concern of the entire state is that Shimla temple tragedy, just because so far 13 bodies have been retrieved from that incident spot, and in fact still 8 persons are still buried under this rubble. You can see now Indian Army and NDRF, they are carrying out this rescue and search operation in this terrain, and even this is the downhill of that temple where the exactly structure of the temple was earlier located. And in fact, after the landslide, the entire structures has been rolled down into the gorge, and now they are trying to find out trace the bodies here in the gorge, just because the entire structure and along with the landslide has been washed away into this gorge itself. And you can see that how Indian Army is now trying to clear the mudslinging, so that at least they can identify the places where the bodies can be tracked. Just because Shavan, 21 people remained present on Monday morning when the tragedy happened, and in fact this number has been given by the locals, and all are being identified. Some relatives, friends, and in fact the family members who have been identified, their own kins, and that number was given to the local administration, and out of that 13 bodies has been retrieved from this entire tragedy, and still 8 are still unidentified, untraceable, and in fact 8 are still buried under these rubbles. And the operation has entered into 3rd day, Shavan. This is the 3rd day of the operation, and you can see the entire, if my camera person can show you, just because the place is entirely very tragic, and in fact there is very few places where we can stand and show you the visuals also. The Indian Army is trying to search out the bodies, just because this entire area has been completely occupied by the damaged structure of the temple, and the entire structure moved towards the downwards. And now the Army and NDRF has also brought the dog squads to trace the bodies. Earlier, they were tracing initially on the top of the hill where the temple was located, but now when they did not find any more body at that location, so finally they have extended their search operation in the gorge also. And here you can see that how NDRF is also trying to dig out the land and trying to find out and trace out the bodies, just because 8 are still untraceable, and those 8 fear to be dead. So total number in Shimla itself is death toll reached to 20, and even in entire Himachal Pradesh it has crossed the mark of 55, and still at several places rescue and search operation is underway. So this is the location, Shravan, which I will show you, and even the locals are also assisting NDRF and Indian Army for this search operation as well. The administration has entirely focused on this search operation just because some family members are still waiting for their kins, and even having a lot of hope that in this entire tragedy any of their family member may survive out of this and may traced by these rescue teams as well. So this is how the operation is being carried out, and in fact it will take more time just because even the weather, Shravan, even the weather is taking the turn, and that turned out to be the concern of the rescue teams as well. Anytime the weather may resume the downpouring, and for that matter they have to halt their operations as well. So they are making a very quick step towards the rescue and search operation in this gorge as well. The JCB machines are trying to clear the rubble at the top of the hill where the temple was located earlier, and in fact now the manpower has been moved towards the down in the gorge and trying to trace the bodies, if any, lying here, just because the structure of the temple has been completely washed towards the downstream as well. So you can see, look at this, the person is holding some identified something, and in fact they are trying to identify either what it is. You can see they are trying to wash it out. It was completely under the mud, and they have just straighted. This is some piece of structure of temple, and it appears to be the gumbad of the temple, which is lying here in the gorge as well. You can see they are trying to wash it out, and in fact they are trying to trace more pieces from this very much area, just because now the entire focus and the search operation has been shifted to this area. Earlier it was at the site where the temple was located, but now the temple has been completely searched out. 13 bodies has been recovered from these two places. One is from where the temple was located, another is this gorge where the entire structure of temple washed away with the landslide as well. It was a massive landslide, it was a cloud burst, and even the only survivor to whom we have spoken to, he has narrated the entire story, that how it happened and how he survived. And even the most important point in his talk reveals that there was no screaming sound when the landslide and the cloud burst happened. All of a sudden the entire building of the temple collapsed, but there was no sound of help. There was no people screaming. All of a sudden it seems to be like everything is plain on that area, that there was no such building. The Ram Singh has told us. So this is how the situation is panning out. The major concern of the entire state is to retrieve the bodies which were buried under the rubble of this temple tragedy. Yes, Shravan.